There are forces of good and forces of evil at work in the world today. What are these forces? Who is responsible for the good? And who is responsible for the evil? Richard Shoff talks about current events which are rarely discussed by the mainstream media, events that affect us all. This program seeks to identify, to inform, and to equip the believer for what's ahead. Welcome to What in the World is Going On?
And I'm your host, Richard Shoff. The program's sponsored by Lincoln Log Homes over in North Carolina. We're pro-choice, pro-Christian, pro-life, pro-Second Amendment, and here only by the grace of God. We're going to cover several areas. It kind of centers around the topic, where's America today? But I wanted to start with something I got on election integrity. We were encouraged to please never stop speaking out. 6,800 American patriots died in action. 6,100 were wounded. 8,000 to 12,000 died as prisoners of war to free us from the chains of slavery from a tyrannical government under King George III. These willingly gave their lives as a sacrifice for the Bill of Rights. We see it set in our Constitution. We must never forget what they have done for us. The enemies of freedom of speech range from the White House to the halls of Congress and down to the schoolhouse. All of us need to loudly use our freedom of speech under the First Amendment against the anti-American government policies and encroachments being launched against us by the Marxists in Congress. Those who fought in the Revolutionary War did not die for government control in our lives. They died for freedom from government control. One of the first liberties that the communists always attack is to eliminate the free speech of the people. This is why they control people's lives, to force them to become subjects of an iron-fisted, tyrannical Marxist government. Russia, China, North Korea, Iran, these are prime examples of countries that continue to crush freedom of speech in the demonic quest to keep people in slavery to the Marxist state. There have been many instances over the several months where Americans have been ostracized and persecuted for exercising their First Amendment right of speech. Recently, a New Jersey police officer was discharged from her position for posting on Facebook that Black Lives Matter rioters are terrorists. A Hollywood business executive lost his job for making a negative comment about BLM. The list goes on. At the same time, BLM and Antifa have looted, burned, assaulted, and killed with impunity. And they're being encouraged by the Marxists in Congress and those across our country. These same Marxist mob organizations are afforded the camouflage of their First Amendment right to speak out and condemn our police force, denounce our American heritage, and topple our historic statues with praise from the radical left. They call them peaceful protesters, when in essence, they're violent insurrectionists. The Democrat radical leftists are ramming through Congress H.R. 1. What'll this do to take away our constitutional authority of our state legislatures to conduct fair and open elections? They're also trying to legitimize the judicial branch by legislating to pack the U.S. Supreme Court with leftist, active justices. Joe Biden and his Marxist cronies are using the executive branch to legislate socialistic programs through unconstitutional executive orders. As Americans, we must not be intimidated by the Marxist mob. We must loudly speak out against the anti-American policies that are being pushed through Congress. They're labeling everyone who stands against their Marxist blueprint to overthrow our American republic. They're labeling us as white supremacists. Let them continue to call names while we take to the public action in the trenches necessary to defeat them at the ballot box. America was built on freedom of expression and ingenuity, not on the false hope of utopian Marxism. There's a Marxist declaration of war on the Second Amendment. This comes from the U.S. Congress to the White House. This to disarm the American people. The unconstitutional activity against guns has existed for several decades, but it recently has been greatly accelerated. Adolf Hitler, Benito Mussolini, Joseph Stalin were all ruthless dictators, and they disarmed their people so they could take complete control of their societies. The Marxists in America are employing the same vicious tactics as these dictators did during their reign of terror. We're considered racist or white supremacists if we speak out against the bloody institution of abortion, the ungodly union of same-sex marriage, the unconstitutional gun confiscation measures in Congress, and the critical race theory being taught in our public schools. Also, if we speak out against the heritage busters in our country for toppling statues of our American heroes and attacking our founding fathers as white supremacists, they'll label us as racist. We are proud to be flag-waving American patriots, and we would not care less about what they say or think. We will continue to recite the Pledge of Allegiance with the phrase, "One nation under God." As Americans, we will not shut up and quit. We will be victorious over the Marxist insurrectionists in this country. We will never wave the white flag of surrender to the Marxist cancel culture movement. But we will keep our God, our Constitution, our guns, and our freedom of speech. To say less than the truth is not the truth. The truth cannot be compromised or negotiated. You know, folks, what America needs today is an old-fashioned biblical Holy Ghost Spirit-filled revival for the salvation of souls. The Bible says in Proverbs 14:34, "Righteousness exalteth a nation, but sin is a reproach to any people." And if that were our goal, if that were to happen today, many of our problems would be solved. At the same time, and see if you see how this is related, over 120 generals and admirals have warned that the administration policies are a national security threat. A day before the Senate markup of H.R. 1 on May 11, 2021, that's the Democrats' power grab to federalize election laws. They want to it would favor progressive candidates. At that time, 124 retired admirals and generals issued an open letter to the American people warning that, quote, "Our nation is in deep peril. We're fighting for our survival as a constitutional republic like no other time since our founding in 1776. Among the dangers facing the nation created by the administration's policies, the retired flag officers signaled out H.R. 1 and Senate 1. Without fair and honest elections, they warn, quote, "Our constitutional republic is lost," end quote. Under our federal system, the states and not the federal government set the controls to ensure election integrity. And there's one legal vote cast and counted per citizen. State legislatures are tasked by the Constitution with setting the election rules. Using government IDs and verified signatures are not just common sense controls. This, according to the flag officers, is also needed to ensure honest elections. Today, many are calling such commonplace controls racist in an attempt in trying to avoid being fair and having honest elections. The flag officers blasted as, quote, "a tyrannical intimidation tactic," end quote. The use of racial slurs to stop criticism of the Democrats' power grab. The flag officers compared these tactics to those used by fascists and Marxist regime to silence their critics and to allow Democrats to forever remain in power, violating our Constitution and ending our representative republic. The retired generals and admirals cited the administration's appeasement of China as the most important external danger. But they also decried the administration's determination to return to the disastrous Iran nuclear deal. It is highly unusual for retired generals and admirals to engage in political actions. But these retired flag officers signed this letter because they still felt bound by their oath, that the oath that they had taken to, quote, support and defend the Constitution of the U.S. against all enemies, foreign and domestic, end quote. The retired flag officers acted because our constitutional republic is under tremendous assault coming from those that believe in socialism and Marxism, which is the opposite of the freedom, liberty, and Bill of Rights that form the basis of our Constitution and our traditional values. Meanwhile, and see how this is related to the point that we're in right now, a bunch of veterans up in New York City were going to have a Memorial Day march parade, and you know what? They turned them down. They turned them down even after allowing a cannabis parade. Wow. Yep, veterans and their attorney point to a sickening double standard. Veterans organization is calling it sickening and a double standard. They told it on Fox News. They've prepared to take legal action, which may be forthcoming after New York City denied a permit for Memorial Day parade. James Haynes III is CEO of United Staten Island Veterans Organization, Inc. He and his attorney, Brandon Latnery, pointed out last week a cannabis parade got the green light from the city. Veterans were set to give special honors to Staten Island's 102nd Annual Memorial Day Parade this year to mark the Gulf War's 30th anniversary. It was all set until the city decided to deny the permits for the parade. Haynes told Fox News host Brian Kilmeade that he was shocked that the city did not grant permits for the Memorial Day parade, but allowed the cannabis parade to carry on. Haynes was going to follow the same procedures that they use every year in keeping with the city's official rules. The United Staten Island Veteran Organization is an association of 16 local veteran groups that has sponsored the annual parade for decades. Well, they filed the request for the parade permit with the New York City Police Department back in February. About 1 week later, the department reportedly denied the request, citing New York City Mayor de Blasio's emergency executive order restricting public events due to the pandemic. This is a clear double standard being applied, they noted. We're just asking the city not to play politics with our veterans. Haynes noted that the parade can carry on while adhering to safety precautions amid the pandemic, including social distances. People can wear masks, he noted, and still be safe. They were safe last year, and they've been safe in every parade. We believe that they engaged in an arbitrary decision to deny the veterans their parade, Latnery said. This is also a First Amendment concern here. They pointed out that the veterans are only, quote, walking history. Every veteran has a different piece of history that they can call from. From the Pearl Harbor guys, well, they're getting kind of old at this point, now to the people who just got back from Iraq and Afghanistan. So we want those kids to see real life history from their borough, Staten Island, marching down Forest Avenue. Amazing. Amazing. The marijuanas get their parade, those boys smoking it up, but our troops are denied. Is this the America that you and I grew up in? Wow. Related to our problems, different angle, different set of circumstances. This is more than gas lines and shortages. We had those back under Jimmy Carter. I guess now that we're going to get the Joe Biden taste. This is more than the canceled Keystone Pipeline. Comes to me from All News Pipeline. They note they're killing America without firing a shot or dropping a bomb. What are they referring to? The attack upon Colonial Pipelines situation, which has a lot of other things related to it that remind you of different causes that are espousing the New World Order. The recent attack that brought Colonial Pipeline to its knees shows how utterly vulnerable America is to attacks that can totally cripple us without firing a shot or dropping a bomb. While much of the day's stories screamed the news of Atlanta's East Coast fuel line juggler getting hit by cyber attacks, with top U.S. fuel pipeline operator Colonial Pipeline shutting down its entire network following a cyber attack upon them, suspected to have been carried out by a group calling themselves Dark Side. With those fuel lines the source of nearly half of the East Coast fuel supply, that ransomware attack has the potential of causing huge fuel line spikes and shortages in the days ahead. This at a time when the U.S. economy is struggling to get out of the hole dug by the COVID lockdown. The largest gas line pipeline in the country was shut down after a sophisticated ransomware attack. Experts are calling the most dramatic cyber attack on U.S. soil to date. In a statement, Colonial Pipeline said that it proactively took certain systems offline to contain the threat. This, which has temporarily halted all pipeline operations and affected some of our IT systems. The hackers are likely a professional cyber criminal group and a group dubbed Dark Side. They were among the potential suspects, according to two U.S. government officials. There are now fears of a similar major spike in gas oil and diesel fuels after the juggler of the U.S. fuel system was forced to suspend operations. I'm sitting to you today taping this from North Carolina. We happen to be, according to a news report I saw last night, the hardest hit of several states that are being plagued by this shortage. I saw the lines today. I saw large stations with no fuel. Well, while that pipeline could be reopened soon, experts now fear a long resolution to this latest drama could be the latest thing to hit the U.S. consumers and hit them hard. Warning an outrage of only 1 or 2 days would have caused minimal damage, while an outage of 5 or 6 days or longer could possibly cause major shortages and price hikes, particularly in every state in an area stretching from central Alabama to Washington, D.C. And as I said, we're in the middle of it, and according to the news report I saw, the hardest hit of these several states. And a related article brought up and declared, they noted that the emergency has been declared in 17 states and the District of Columbia. This after the pipeline cyber attack, the most significant and successful attack on energy infrastructure that we know of in the United States. It occurred Friday, May 7th, when a ransomware cyber attack was launched on Colonial Pipeline. They point out the pipeline stretches from New Jersey to Texas and provides 45% of the gasoline fuel and jet fuel used on the East Coast. Bloomberg reported that the hackers are to be part of Dark Side and grabbed 100 gigabytes of data out of Colonial's network before they shut down the pipeline. Dark Side is thought to be a ransomware group which tries to hold companies up. It's believed to be based in Russia. The Hill reported that the U.S. Department of Transportation issued a regional emergency declaration granting drivers and carriers, quote, relief from Parts 390 through 399 of Title 49. That's a code for a federal regulation. The regulation emergency declares that it lifts restrictions for motor carriers and drivers who are providing assistance to areas that are suffering shortages of gasoline, diesel, jet fuel, and other refined petroleum products. This all in the wake of the Colonial Pipeline shutdown. The regional emergency declaration affects the following states: Alabama, Arkansas, D.C., Delaware, Florida, Georgia, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maryland, Mississippi, New Jersey, New York, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, Tennessee, Texas, and Virginia. The FBI says that they were notified of the network disruption of the pipeline, and they're working closely with the government and the company as they're partnering together to overcome this attack. Now, while this happens here in the U.S., a threat to our disruption, at the same time we've got a situation. Let's look over in the North Arabian Sea. Did you see where the U.S. Navy has seized weapons from unmarked vessels thought to be from Iran? They're believed to originate in Iran, bound for Yemen. Weapons that the U.S. Navy described as coming from a hidden arms shipment were aboard a stateless ship. The weapons are now aboard a guided missile carrier of ours, the USS Monterey. The Navy announced last Sunday that it had seized the arms shipment off this stateless ship. The Navy's Fifth Fleet said the two-day operation on May 6th and 7th involved the seizure of dozens of advanced Russian-made anti-tank guided missiles, thousands of Chinese Type 56 assault weapons, and hundreds of PKM machine guns, super rifles, and rocket-propelled hand grenaders, along with the other arms and military equipment. Crews aboard the U.S. guided missile carrier, USS Monterey, discovered the weapons after boarding the ship in international waters for a routine flag verification. The Navy said that the original source and destination of the weapons are still under review, and the material is still being inspected by U.S. authorities. But a U.S. defense official told the Associated Press last Sunday that initial signs suggest the unmarked vessel set sail from Iran and was headed for Yemen, where Iran-backed Houthi rebels are battling government forces backed by a Saudi Arabia-led coalition. Iran has sought for years to get around the United Nations arms embargo by covertly shipping weapons to the war-torn country. And you know, just now today, I see on the news the vast number of missiles that are being aimed into Israel, hitting Tel Aviv. Isn't it kind of strange? These things are all happening right now. I wonder if it could be, I don't know, do you think weak leadership out of Washington could be causing some of these actions to get together? I don't think it's a coincidence, folks. And by the way, over in that same area, did you see where the U.S. ships were firing warning shots at Iranian boats for the second time in 2 weeks? Yeah, the U.S. Coast Guard fired around 30 warning shots at a group of Iranian boats last Monday, May 10th, second time in 2 weeks, according to the AP. 13 Iranian Islamic Revolutionary Guard news fast attack boats, conducting unprofessional maneuvers in the Strait of Hormuz, came within 150 yards of 6 U.S. Navy boats. These boats were escorting a guided missile submarine. This according to Pentagon spokesman John Kirby. Sadly, harassment by the IRGC Navy is not a new phenomenon, he noted. He told the AP report, you know, it's unsafe, it's unprofessional, and this kind of activity is a kind of activity that could lead to somebody getting hurt and could lead to a real miscalculation in that region. And that doesn't serve anybody's interest. The Iranian ships got too close to a U.S. patrol in the Persian Gulf on April 26, resulting in the first instance of American forces firing warning shots at IRGC vessels in about 4 years. It's an international waterway, and of course, when you're in that straits, there's certain limits. You have to be limited because of your ability to maneuver. I mean, it's a choke point in the region, according to Kirby. And this action is not insignificant, but it is dangerous, unsafe, unprofessional behavior. Again, quoting Kirby. U.S. officials gave several verbal commands for the Iranian forces to stand down before firing warning shots. The Iranian ships altered course and increased their distance from the U.S. forces after they got 150 yards off U.S. assets. Just some things I've seen in the past week or 10 days. They kind of tie together. It makes me wonder, where are we at? How do we relate to those revolutionary forces that died, were wounded, lost many of them their farms, material possessions on total, that we could be a free people in a free country? We are under attack. It's not just one thing. I do not think personally that it's not related one upon another. A solution I would ask you, encourage you, those of you of my listeners who are believers, let us pray before a holy God for divine intervention on our part, on the happenings around. We might want to start with that revival. It would sure be great to happen right now. What stronger voice for peace could we have? Goodbye, good listeners. Be back with you in a few days.